NASA scrambles as ISS is forced to swerve to avoid Russian space junk from a missile test. This is not the first time the ISS had to maneuver to get out of space debris. We even have damage on the solar panels of the ISS because of debris. And also you could see this astronaut pointing to space debris just outside of the ISS. Now, late last year, Russia used an anti-satellite missile to blow up one of its own satellites in an event known as an ASAT test. NASA announced that the International Space Station, the ISS, was forced to dodge debris from satellite blown by Russia during the missile test. And according to a statement by the space agency, Research Space Lab took evasive maneuvers at 1:25 a.m. UK time yesterday. It added that the move had no impact on station operations. They calculate that without intervention, a fragment from the destroyed satellite could have passed within about 3 miles of the station. To avoid this fragment, the ISS team had to fire the thrusters on Progress 81, a Russian cargo ship that was attached to the station, for a total of 5 minutes and 5 seconds. This move, known as a Predetermined Debris Avoidance Maneuver, PDAM for short, was carried out in an effort to provide the complex an extra measure of distance away from the predicted track of the debris fragment, the agency officials said. They wrote the PDAM increased the station's altitude by 0.2 of a mile at apogee, at 0.8 of a mile at perigee, and left the station in orbit of 246.3 times 255.4 statute miles. The debris was created by Russia late last year when it used an anti-satellite missile to blow up one of its own satellites in an event known as an anti-satellite ASAT test. The ASAT missile was launched from the ground in November and obliterated a defunct Soviet satellite known as Cosmos 1408, which had been out of commission since the 1980s. In a press conference at the time, the U.S. Department of State spokesperson Ned Price slammed Russia for being reckless, adding that it could endanger astronauts in space. He said the test has so far generated over 1,500 pieces of trackable orbital debris and hundreds of thousands of pieces of smaller orbital debris that now threaten the interests of all nations. This test will significantly increase the risk to astronauts and cosmonauts on International Space Station, as well as to other human spaceflight activities. Astrophysics and satellite tracker Jonathan McDowell of Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics in Cambridge told Space.com at the time that there's really no reason they should have such a big target. They could have used a smaller target and generated less debris. The ISS has previously had to avoid the debris left from the Russian ASAT test in June of this year, where it performed a similar maneuver to avoid fragments from Cosmos 1408. And then Russian Roscosmos chief Dmitry Rogozin wrote, "I confirm that at 22:03 Moscow time, the engines of the Russian Progress MS-20 transport cargo ship carried out an unscheduled maneuver to avoid a dangerous approach of the ISS station with a fragment of the Cosmos 1408 spacecraft." Inmarsat CEO Rajiv Suri previously told Express UK that the debris in space creates problems lasting for decades, of course. Mr. Suri, whose company is a British satellite telecommunications provider, said any country that does anti-satellite testing creates a risk of space debris. The problem with space debris is that they last for years and decades, and that is the problem. It's an additional problem that these direct ASAT tests by a small number of major space powers over the past several decades have created all this debris. In April 2022, the U.S. announced a moratorium on these tests in space, and the hope is that as many countries as possible would adhere to this in the near future. That's what we need to do, as space should be respected. Russia has done it, China has done it, the US, India, and other countries as well. But ASAT tests are not the only cause of space debris. Mr. Suri warned there are 3 risks. One is space debris itself. That's to do with ASAT tests, but also to do with the fact that we used to have 1,400 in the year 2014. Now there are about 5,200 satellites out there above Earth. The low Earth orbit, in particular, has a plan for a number of mega constellations, and the projects talk about 100,000 satellites by the year 2030. That means that the risk of collision grows even more. To add to that, there is a risk of ASAT testing. The third risk is orbital exclusion, that companies or countries can occupy a particular orbit whereby there is no place for anybody else. So the economic risk of monopoly formation, and that also adds to the physical collision avoidance risk. What we're calling for is regulation to be able to manage this better. You can imagine what goes on above our heads. This is by Anthony Ashkenaz on Express UK. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.